want to sit down, do so. It'll be easier than trying to stand in the front. And I got this down here and they come to the front. Okay. Yeah. If everybody could sit down, everybody will hear me because I won't be talking through people.
No, you're fine, girl.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. If you can keep quiet, it's quite difficult to get your voice overheard by the water dropping over the sills here. So anyway, my name is Mick Kinahan. I lived in Ballyfermot many years ago. This was my playground as well in the 50s and the early 60s till I found young ones and then I went chasing them. So there you go. But I used to live on Clatter Road. I'm now a member of the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, which is a body of a voluntary organisation that's been in existence since 1954, and it has endeavoured over all of those years to keep the canals open, and if they were closed, to reopen them. And we've many projects going on all over the country. We've 4,500 members, we have 22 branches, and we organise about 240 events everywhere. We're heavily involved here in Dublin. I'm a member of the Dublin branch. I'm also a member of the Grand Canal branch, which is on the other side of the city. So we don't differentiate between Northsiders or Southsiders. We're all the one. We're all water lovers. I first became aware of this when I was about 7 or 8 maybe years of age, and I actually do remember on an odd occasion the barges that did use the canal. In 1961 the commercial traffic stopped and the canals went into dereliction practically, but as you can see they're back here now, and we volunteer groups all over the place trying to keep them that way. There is an organisation called the Waterways Ireland, which is the body set up by the government in 1999 to keep it all going, and the less I say about them the better, because I'll end up in trouble if I say too much. But anyway, they're like all government bodies. Okay, now canals, I'll answer questions in a few minutes, alright? The canals are a very old concept of moving goods around all over the world. The Chinese were using canals, and the Pharaohs and everybody else, they used all of this type of thing 3,000, 3,500 and 2,500 years ago. The lock that we're looking at the moment was originally invented by the Vikings, believe it or not, and they operated locks by just putting one dam in one place, either to rise the water or drop the water, and then they would bring in their boats and block it behind them, go through to wherever they were going, have the raid on the villages, and came back again, and then to get back out to sea they would break open the other dam. The Chinese came up with a system called a compound lock, which is similar to this, except that the gates were straight, which created all sorts of difficulties. The gates that you see here today were invented by a man called Leonardo da Vinci. Has everybody heard of him? Yeah, well, this is the man that invented these gates, and they're called mitre gates. And the reason they're called mitre gates is because they're at a V to each other, and the pressure of the water keeps the gates closed. So it's impossible to really do anything wrong when you're operating the canal. This canal, does everybody know what this canal is called? No. No? And do you live in Ballyfermot? It's called the Grand Canal.
Grand Canal.
The Grand Canal.
Yeah.
And this canal was started way back. Anybody like to make a guess when they started to work in these canals? Go on. No, would you try 1735? It all started way back in 1735. They were working on these canals. Now they didn't actually start in Dublin. They actually started out in Clondalkin, where the 10th and the 11th block is. That's where the canals actually started. There's a lovely house out there known as Omer's house. He was the first engineer. And if you go out there, if you're ever walking along the canal, which I recommend because there's lovely walks out there, you'll see that the locks are different. They were the first locks that were built. But I won't go down that road, there's a lot of heritage involved in it. Anyway, Dublin City council, or as it was then, Dublin Corporation, became interested, and they wanted water for the people of Dublin. And as you know, just up the road here in Park West, there are filter beds and water reservoirs, and just down near Inchicore there are more filter beds and reservoirs. So Dublin Corporation were involved, and the water was brought along the canals for the people of Dublin, Rathmines in particular. Then Guinnesses became involved, and that's where we all talk about the Guinness barges or the Guinness boats. There's no such thing as a Guinness boat. There was never a Guinness boat on any of the canals. The only Guinness boats were on the Liffey. All of the boats that were on the canals were either belonged to the Grand Canal Company or private individuals, but they moved boats. Now for the kids, you know, 200 years ago or 250 years ago, there was no roads, there was no railways, there was nothing, only boreens and little laneways and all the rest. And all you had was a cart and a horse. And a horse can only pull 1 ton for about 6 hours a day. So when the canals were invented, and you see the size of them there, the boats they put on it they're 60 feet by 13 feet wide. They have a draft of 4 feet, and 1 horse can pull that barge. Does anybody like to guess how much weight they put into them barges? Anybody? Pick a figure. 12 ton, 13 ton. Would you try between 50 and 70 tons? Well, and one, by the way, here's a horse I can pull, and you were on it as well. We had to get, anyway. So now you had 50 to 70 tons being pulled by 1 horse, and because it's real easy, because of the way the boat is able to float on the water, there's very little friction, and it just glides through the water. So the canals back 200 years ago were the highways of Ireland. Now there are places all over the place that we never hear, names that we hear, but they were very prominent then. I'm just going to throw out one name. I'm not going to go down that road. Has anybody ever heard of Ballinaccarrigy?
No.
No, yeah, I bet you haven't. Yeah, so, but that's in the Midlands, just outside Mullingar. But that was a famous area. It's still down there, and the harbour's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to do a demonstration now of a boat. If you were coming to Dublin, you actually go down, believe it or not. And if people think about it, when maybe our parents would have used the term, I'm going up to Dublin, or I'm going down the country, or I'm doing this or doing that, that's where that term came from. Because the canals in Ireland are what's known as summit canals. So there's a high point and a low point. On this canal there's 2 low points. There's one in Dublin and there's another one on the Shannon. And the summit is down in a place called Lowtown, believe it or not. The highest point in the canals is Lowtown. Now, there's a fen down there, that has 9 springs, and that's where that water comes from. That water is probably some of the cleanest water in Ireland. Everybody thinks it's polluted. It's only polluted when we throw stuff into it. So let's not throw stuff in. That water is drinkable in lots and lots of places. It's only in certain areas, I would say, because certain things happen in certain places. But I've done talks right in the city with various on for the radio and everything else, and we've analysed the water, and you can actually drink it. Now, it doesn't have all of the chemicals that Dublin City Council put in, but it's still drinkable. I've been in Pollardstown Fen, and it's quite difficult to get into the Fen because it's in the middle of a bog, and you have to, the only way you can get in because it's marshy is follow the lines and the little streams that are there. And it comes up from about 9 feet, and you can literally see the crystal clear water coming up. And the whole area around it is clear because there's movement thereof, so nothing grows. Not because there's pollution, but because there's activity of the water all the time. It doesn't allow anything to settle in it. Anyway, so you're coming into Dublin, you're coming down, you're going down into Dublin. Now, for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to let on, there's a boat coming in, alright? And we're going to operate the locks. normally when you come into the locks, because the general rule is they're called the breast gates and they're called the tailgates. The tailgates are normally left open. So to simulate that, I've actually let the level of the canal down a little bit. I'm now going to close them off, and I'm going to point out a few things. You see the little white posts in the middle? Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you look to the front, there's a bottle on one of them. They're what's known as the paddles or the racks. In Ireland we call them racks. In England on the canals they call them paddles. And that's how the water is let in and out. Would anybody like to give a guess as to how long it takes to put a boat through a lock? Yeah, go on. An hour, okay. Well, you're way off. Way back in the 1820s, the lock keepers were paid very little money, but they were fined 1 penny for every minute over 3 minutes a boat was in the lock. So they could put a lock, yes. Now, there wouldn't be just one lock keeper, there would be a heap, but they got fined. And a penny was a lot of money back then. That was in the 1810s, 1820s. That's when the canals were at their busiest and they were flying through. Now, if I was on my own, or maybe with one helper, it takes me about 12 to 15 minutes. Just going easy on it. I can do it faster, but it's dangerous the faster you go. Right, the first thing that will happen is I come up to the lock, I would tie my boat over there, and then I will use one of these. This is a lock key, and it's a key. It's a very big key and a very heavy key, because it's quite difficult to open these locks, particularly when they're under pressure, and they're under pressure today because Waterways have actually let a whole lot. I haven't forgotten about you, coming to you. Alright, go on, it's killing you, ask the question.
Look what I can handle. Give it a one handle.
Correct, you're absolutely right. I've just been reminded, and I should have said it, rivers have been always there. They're a natural occurrence. Canals are handmade, they're made by men. Thank you very much. I should have said that earlier, thank you. And he's absolutely right. Every canal has been built by man, and they're built all over the world. Just as a point of interest, we're only aware of 2 canals here in Dublin, and most people don't even know we have 2 canals. But we have actually 25 canals in Ireland all over the place, but I won't go through them all. That's for another day. So, what I'm going to do now is demonstrate. If I came in, I would moor my boat over there, I would come up and I would check out the lock, and the first thing I would do, if there's on the tailgates, they would usually be open, I would close them, and then I would and just don't follow me, just watch me. I would down and close all the racks. Now when I close these racks, you're going to see the water rising, and I'm going to help it by opening the racks on the far side.
That's so deep. That's actually deeper when we do it, when we jump in.
Here, you will notice there's only 4 racks there, but there are 6 racks up here, and there's 2 to the side. The reason I would use the side racks is because it allows the water to come in under the boat, and there's very little disturbance, so it just rises the boat up. But if I was to open a rack with the water coming out, the boat gets thrown all over. So I'm now going to open this rack.
be exhausted.
That's all right.
Ah, you don't need to be.
It's gonna go wrong. We'll let you know.
I can't see. Shannon Bridge, you're out punching, by the way. Maybe there's a few dulces. Are any dulces here?
Yeah. Right, so just hold on to the raft first.
Oh, we're going to drop it straight in.
Drop onto the raft.
Hold on, guys, hold hands.
Hold on like the light. Arms and legs inside the
So
vehicle.
guys, just remember, yeah, arms and legs inside, paddles in.